So Richard, I was just wondering how you met John Richardson.
That's an interesting story. I'd already finished the first draft of Deathstroke, the 1,500-page version, and I'd created the character John Richardson as a play on words, John Richard's son. And I was watching a movie, Aliens, with my son, and the credits played through, and there, John Richardson, director of special effects. And I about fell off the couch. Whoa! Because I remembered that he had won the Academy Award for special effects in Aliens. It won the Academy Award that year.
Yeah,
and so,
brilliant.
oh, that's one of the best. And so I thought, I got to find this guy. I will move heaven and earth. And so I knew Lightstorm had done Aliens, so I called Lightstorm. I said, I need to talk to John Richardson. Well, he's a contract person. He doesn't work for us. Try the Academy of Arts and Sciences, the Academy Awards. And so I called them, and they said, well, he's a Brit. Call the British Film Institute in London. Next morning, bright and early, I called over there, and they said, well, everybody knows Richardson. He says, but get hold of the Guild. You'll find him through the Guild. And they gave me the number, and I called over to the Guild and worked my way through different layers of people. And finally, I got to the head of the Guild, and he says, well, of course I know Richardson, but I can't just put you in touch with him. Tell you what, you send me the book, and I'll make sure he gets it. I thought, okay, that sounds cool. And he puts me back to the secretary, whom I'd already given the spiel to. And she says, well, Lovey, you didn't get this from me, but you might try Beverly Hills 310. Oh, he's given me his office number, and I call. It's his unlisted home. I hung the phone up, you know, when I realized that's what it was, and sort of screwed my courage to the sticking post, as it were, and called on a Sunday night. And hello, this is John. And I said, Mr. Richardson, you don't know me, but I've written a book about you. And he said, oh, well, that's rather engaging, isn't it? I remember that so well. And I said, well, really, no, I'm an attorney in Washington State, and the principal character of my book is John Richardson. I'd like to have you read it.
The first time Richard rang me was quite out of the blue. Just this stranger ringing up saying, I'm a lawyer and I've written a book about you, which seemed more than a little odd at the time. Plus the fact it was around the time of the Unabomber, so here's this guy saying, I'll send you a large package, and please accept it and open it. And I did feel a little odd, but then after talking to Richard for a few minutes, he explained where he was coming from and what it was all about.
So he made arrangements for me to send the book down to his office.
I received the book, and it was very thick, and I eventually got time to sit down and start to read it. I was at the time on a movie called Starship Troopers, which was a very, very heavily involved special effects film, very intense, 24/7, and I just didn't have the time to think about other things. But having said that, I read the first chapter, and the first chapter had me hooked. It was great. It was just the sort of thing that you read that and you think, I want to read on. So I rang Richard up and I explained that I couldn't read any further at the present time, but I was really hooked on it and wanted to get into the book and read it as soon as I got a chance.
He was doing Starship Troopers, and he says, it's a 24/7 for me, but I'll get back to you. And that was like April. Not a word. I just forgot about it. Then in August, my wife comes in. She's my secretary, and she comes in. It's Richardson, it's Richardson. And so I pick it up, and he's calling me from an airline over the Pacific. He said, we just wrapped on Starship Troopers. He says, well into your book and I really like it. Any possibility you could fly down to LA when I'm done with my vacation, holiday I think he called it, and we could talk. And so I made arrangements to meet him in LA. Judy and I flew on down. We had this very nice meeting with he and his wife Rosie. And he said, you know, I've read the book. I've been making movies for 35 years now. He said, this is the best story I've ever read. I want to make the movie. Well, what do you think I said?
What was your desire to do the movie?
Once I'd read the book and digested it, what really hit me was that the book is very strong on two levels. One, it covers the global warming issue and what man is doing to the world today. And that is very heavily entwined with a really great science fiction humanitarian story which has got a lot of action in it. I started to talk to Richard about what needed to happen to turn the book into a usable script.
And so he had me write a screenplay, which I sent to him, and he called me back and he says it's a very good screenplay, but two problems. You direct every camera angle in every scene. You don't do that in a screenplay. And he said, and it's a 9.5-hour movie.
It's difficult with all books when you try and turn them into a script. What do you leave out? What do you keep in? I think I told Richard at the time that what he had was a 9.5-hour movie, which is probably a bit long to be shown in most theatres. And Richard started the task of trimming it and editing it, and like all writers, didn't want to lose this bit and didn't want to lose that bit, but we've started along the road and made a good start on it anyway.
And boom, we're off and running, I thought, and then along came Harry Potter.
So anyway, we carried on these discussions and trying to move forward. Meanwhile, I was getting involved in, another James Bond movie, or come the year 2000, the first of the Harry Potter films.
And John took on the special effects direction of Harry Potter. And then he called me and said, well, when this is done, we're going to get together and do this. Then came Harry Potter 2. And he said, well, as soon as this one's over, we're going to get together. And then he called me later and he says, they got me in a golden cage.
Here I am 8 years later, still working on the Harry Potter films, which I love. But there's only one more book to go. So after Potter, hopefully there will be Deathstroke.
When 7 is done, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And so that's where we are now.
The exciting thing still is that it's potentially a great film, and I think in today's world it could be a really big seller. It could be very popular. I think it's going to get a lot of people on different issues, and at the same time be incredibly exciting.